I want to thank you all so much for being here today for our live webinar, Monthly Donor Masterclass with Jam Collective. My name is Jess Tiberio, and I'm joined here today by Catherine and Stephanie. We'll let them introduce themselves in just a moment. And we're so excited today to bring you this webinar. This is a version of a presentation that was done at this year's Bridge Conference, a direct response fundraising conference in Washington, D.C., which was standing room only, which was really exciting. So we've decided to kind of bring it to the masses through this webinar format, and we're very excited to have you all here to join us. So just an overview of our agenda. I'm going to start with a land acknowledgement. So we would like to acknowledge the lands on where we stand today. I live in Virginia Beach, Virginia, which is the homelands of the Chesapeake people and the southern tribes of the Powhatan Confederacy. So we're going to do intros, like I said, and then we'll jump right into what we're hearing about sustainer and monthly programs. We'll talk about the simple math of sustainer giving. We'll talk about what the Jam Collective is, give a high-level overview of the Jam Collective and all the phases of it. We'll hear from Catherine about her door-to-door program through Trillium Health Partners. Then Stephanie will speak to us about her program at the Alzheimer's Society of Canada. And then we will leave time for questions. So we have timed this so there's lots of time for questions, as I'm sure there will be. There is a Q&A option in the chat here, so please feel free to put in any questions as we go along, and we'll address those questions at the very end. Okay, so I will kick it over to Catherine to introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Maddox, and I am the Direct and Lifecycle Manager at Trillium Health Partners. I, like most fundraisers, sort of kicked around the various streams in direct marketing, everything between events, retention, acquisition, and obviously monthly. I'm really excited to be here today and get a chance to speak with you about what we've been doing with Jam and how it's been able to help Trillium.
Great. And we've added, we're getting into winter time where we like to go into hibernation. So we've added some suggestions of shows to watch or binge. Catherine's happened to be all UK shows because she didn't mention she lived in the UK for a while. So you can always reach out to her about her UK suggestions, TV suggestions. Okay. And Stephanie?
Hi, everyone. My name is Stephanie Blackmore, and I'm the manager of monthly giving at the Alzheimer's Society of Canada. I've been with the organization for just over a year now, and it's a brand new role that focuses strictly on monthly giving. So all things related to monthly, including acquisition, retention, upgrade, reactivation, it's all within my portfolio, and it's been a really fun program to work on. And prior to being at this organization, I've worked at a number of different nonprofits and have had the chance to work on some really successful annual giving and direct marketing programs. And I'm really excited to be here as well.
Awesome. Thank you. And like I mentioned, my name is Jess Tiberio. I am an account director at ST. I have had the pleasure of working in the fundraising space for my entire career, both in Canada and the US. As I mentioned at the top, I currently live in the US, and I am the lead for Jam Collective. So it has been an absolute joy over the past, I guess, we're started getting close to a year of working with the first cohort of the collective. And I always tell the Jam Collective, it's my favorite part of the day when I get to do Jam tasks, because I'm passionate about monthly giving and really passionate about retention and donor journeys and donor experience. Okay, so let's get right into it. So this old kind of tug of war that happens between acquisition and retention. And at ST, we've had such great conversations with so many wonderful organizations across the US and Canada. And I know some of the folks who we've spoken to who represent some of these brands are here today. But we've really enjoyed getting to kind of know these organizations. This is just a sampling, and really focus on their monthly giving program. And when we were speaking to all of these organizations, we kind of started to notice a trend. And this was that most of the energy and resources, and we're talking financial as well as staff resources, are being directed towards acquiring new sustainers or new monthly donors. Which makes sense to all of us in fundraising. We all, I think, know the importance of a robust and active monthly donor and sustainer file. I know for a number of organizations, their monthly donor program, especially through the uncertainty of COVID, really were the engine driving their annual giving program forward, giving them some kind of buffer when things were so uncertain. But as I said, there's so much focus on how do we get new monthlies, convert new monthlies. And we found in our conversation, there was much less emphasis on the welcome, the retain, and the upgrade. So we felt like when we were having these conversations, it was worth kind of digging into why, and then, looking at what could we do to really affect these parts of the program, the welcome, the retain, and the upgrade. And we also noticed in our conversations that often, regardless of the way a monthly donor was being acquired, the treatment was kind of the same along the way. So, even with door-to-door, for example, a donor gets the automatic thank you that comes from the, door-to-door provider or agency, but then it kind of goes into a normal stream. So there wasn't kind of a focus on channel of acquisition and then treating that donor a little differently based on their channel of acquisition. And we felt like there was an opportunity to kind of dig into that. And when we spoke to a lot of organizations, we kept coming back to this simple math of sustainers. And I think this is for us fundraisers, an equation we're relatively familiar with. We're all looking for a higher value from our donors. Monthly donors, we know, have some of the highest value, lifetime value. And when we were talking to organizations, we were finding that this C part of the equation, the cost, was continuing channel. But we've spoken to organizations where they said, hey, it's costing us over $500 to acquire one new monthly donor. And we're having problems then retaining and upgrading those donors. So we're really focused in Jam Collective on the R part of the equation and the U part of the equation. So those are the two levers that we feel like if we can kind of move those metrics, improve those metrics a tiny bit, we can really have a very significant impact on the value. Unfortunately, the cost, as much as we'd love to say, oh, we could, bring this down, just it's something that's out of our control. The cost of living is increasing, inflation's increasing. I know, for all of our mail clients, cost of paper just continues to increase. So that's something we don't have control over, but the R and the U is something we felt like we could make some real impact if we focused on the R and the U. And something we overheard in talking to an organization, and this is a direct quote, this person said, if we could increase our sustainer retention by 1%, it would equal $500,000 a year. So that's a pretty, when you think about it, 1% is not a ton, but it has a huge impact on the overall revenue of the organization if we can move the needle by that 1%. And so we are so grateful to the brave, and we always kept saying it's very hard to be first and say, I'm going to put my hand up and we'll go first. So we're very thankful and grateful for the brave founding members who joined the first class of the Jam Collective, Trillium Health Partners, which is of course Catherine's organization, Alzheimer's Society of Canada, which Stephanie is a member or part of, the National Audubon Society, Diabetes Canada, and Oxfam. So these 5 organizations, we're so thankful to them, and we've really enjoyed getting to know them and their program. And I think you'll hear a little bit later, I think they've enjoyed getting to know each other as well. So that's been really lovely. Okay, so the Jam Collective, I'll just give a quick overview of what it is, and then we'll kind of go into some examples of specific programs with Catherine and Stephanie. So the Jam Collective is a 2-year project together. And we do a 2-year program or project because of the nature of monthly giving. It takes a while to collect data. It then takes a while to kind of test and to see those tests, the results of those tests. So that's why it's a 2-year. We start by mapping each of the organizations, each of the member of the collectives. We start by mapping their donor journeys for their monthly donors by channel. And we do this for each organization. And at the same time, we mystery shop those journeys. That then leads to our first of many roundtables, and that's where we all get together. All the members of the collective come together around a virtual table. We are doing an in-person meeting as well in early 2024, but we come together and we kind of discuss certain topics and also open up the floor for members of the JAM Collective to talk to each other. All the data that comes from the mapping of each organization is being rolled up into the benchmarking. So this is the stage we are currently at right now with the JAM Collective. We completed kind of phase one, unofficially completed it because it always continues, but we'll be rolling everything, all of the data together, all the donor journeys together into our benchmarking report. We'll have another roundtable to speak to that. And then we go back out to the individual organization level and say, based on the benchmarking, based on your donor journey mapping, these are tests that we feel could help to improve your retention, to improve your upgrade, or to improve your reactivation metrics. So we go back to the individual organizations with specific tailored individual testing plans based on the data we're seeing. And then we have a roundtable to then discuss the testing and the results of everyone's testing. So just a little bit more detail on each of those phases. So like I said, we're mapping all of the sustainer journeys across the channel. So we're really focused on the welcome. What does your welcome journey feel like, look like? What is the cadence? Off ramp. So for example, if someone cancels, what does that journey look like? Upgrading, win back. So if a donor does cancel, how do you try to reactivate, win back that gift? We're looking at metrics within the program. So for example, retention overall, retention by channel. And as I mentioned, we're collecting all the data, and then we at ST are actually mystery shopping. And I know both Stephanie and Catherine will speak a little bit about this in their experience, but that's been really insightful because we all know we can sometimes have really wonderful plans, and sometimes things don't. I guess I should say often things don't go according to plan, and there's areas to improve retention even by mystery shopping the welcome journeys. And then we present initial findings and recommendations from the donor journey mapping to each member of the collective. The benchmark report, which is what we're working on right now, benchmarks the individual members against each other to see how everyone measures up. And really the purpose there is we want to learn from what's working for programs or not working. Again, all with this idea of improving retention and upgrade within everyone's programs. Some of the KPIs that we're looking at: reactivation, upgrade. So how do you upgrade? Do you upgrade on a calendar basis? So for example, every April and every September, you call your monthly donors and try and get them to upgrade? Or is it more of a time duration on file? So if a monthly donor has been on file for 6 months, do you go ahead and call them then and then try and upgrade them? What channels are you using? Are you using SMS to try and upgrade? Are you not? As I mentioned, retention rate by channel, by month. And we're really going to focus on the KPIs based on channel as well. So of course, we're interested in the overall retention rate of your monthly program, but also then drilling down to the channel basis, because we know that can really differentiate channel by channel. Based on the benchmarking, we will then provide A/B testing strategies to test different changes you can make to your program to try and improve retention and upgrade. This will be cross-channel, so across all the different channels, and we have all this wonderful data from all the other members of the collective to pull on as well to provide those recommendations. Also, something that's great about the testing is if two organizations want to test the same thing, one organization in the collective can test one thing, another organization can test another, and it kind of helps to the economies of scale with the testing, because testing can be expensive and take a long time. So you can almost learn from each other, and that's a great part of the collective as well. And then finally, the last kind of phase we'll talk about, and this actually happens throughout the 2 years, but are the KPI check-ins. So like I mentioned, they're really meant to be light on staff time. We try to make make them an hour to an hour and a half, just because there are a lot of people and there's lots to cover. But it's meant to be light on staff time. And what we're doing here is to check progress against the benchmarking study. We allow, like I said, we have an agenda that guides the conversation, but we also allow for a lot of kind of open discussion, and the members of the collective can ask each other questions, really specific questions like, oh, what vendor do you use for this? Or are you having challenges with this? We're seeing retention drop off at 3 months, or is anyone else seeing that? Just to kind of get an idea and gauge the temperature of the room and share from each other. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Catherine, who's going to talk a little bit about her program and door-to-door at Trillium Health.
Hi, everyone. Thanks again for having me today. In order to give you context on what we've been doing for Trillium and what JAM has meant to us, I have to start at the beginning to provide some perspective. So up as late as 2018, Trillium Health Partners was operating as a rather modest foundation, more of a let's order some pizza and fold some envelopes approach versus what most larger organizations would outsource. In 2020, we needed to put together a very aggressive fundraising strategy in order to set ourselves on a path to migrate from one of our original sites, which was built in 1954 to support what was then quite a small Mississauga community, to, you can just see the picture on the left there. We are currently in the process of completely rebuilding the Mississauga site. So that will actually be the largest structure outside of Toronto, and we will become the largest hospital in the country. So everyone who's had anything to do with renovations knows building anything is expensive. So building the largest hospital in Canada is very expensive. So we needed to get a fundraising plan in place to be able to support this very ambitious goal. Part of that was we implemented a door-to-door program with the explicit goal to exponentially expand our monthly giving program. By 2023, the program was a success. We were able to increase our monthly giving file from just over 1,000 to over 10,000. So what initially was our problem of, how are we going to get enough monthly supporters, very quickly became, now that we have them, how are we going to keep them? So door-to-door always elicits very interesting comments, and I'd say that the program definitely has benefits, and there definitely are some hurdles that you have to overcome. Without failure, door-to-door is able to give you access to increasing your monthly donor file exponentially. So there isn't really a channel that can give you that many donors in such a short period of time. 9 out of 10 of my monthly donors currently were acquired via door-to-door. Attrition is a huge problem for the channel. Donors come through your program, and then unfortunately, within the first 3 months, a large portion of them do leave you. It's a very high investment to be able to get this program up and running, and the attrition rates are even higher. It's pretty standard in the industry. Obviously, you'll have people who have much lower, much higher, but 50 to 60% attrition by 12 months maturation is pretty standard. In 2023, I'm sure all of us can have felt the impacts of the economics climate right now. For us, our door-to-door program was most severely impacted in April and May of this year, with the highest attrition rates we've ever seen. So what we're doing is we are diversifying our portfolio. It's not good business practice to have one channel funneling all of your monthly donors. So we're definitely working on that. In this year, we've built out new face-to-face programs supporting event fundraising on campus, which is actually positioning fundraisers in each of our hospital sites to fundraise, as well as mall programs. And we've also implemented a multi-channel bespoke program, our donor journey, that targets our door-to-door donors, specifically because attrition rates were so high and we needed to counter the loss there. We use telephone, email, mail, SMS, and the program has been really successful so far. We've managed to reduce attrition by 11%, which is fabulous. I actually was very excited when I first got the stat and called Jess directly to let her know. In our future, we're looking on capitalizing on insights that we've gained from this journey to improve next year, and also create experiences that make supporters feel connected, engaged, and impactful. And that leads us into why we're really focused not on how we get the donors, but how do we keep them. So why did we join JAM? It was pretty simple math for us, if you will. We had a huge program. We're a small team and we really needed to put something in place quickly, but we needed the insights and we needed experts to do it. So JAM has given us, or why did we join, was we were able to gauge our performance against other files and understand where we sit. What does the health of our file look like against our colleagues in the same industry? Access to being able to support and develop an informed testing strategy. And obviously, again, access to valuable expert insights and guidance. This one is pretty big for us on small tweaks that you can make, as well as big changes. Personally, it can feel a bit overwhelming when there are 10,000 different things you could do with a file, but just having somebody be able to say, this small component could really make a big change, and this big decision is worth the investment. Mystery shopping. As Jess said, nothing ever goes to plan. There's always some audience rebuilding happening, depending on what your portfolio is. Emails are being sent or not sent to individuals that you thought. And it also really gives us, we are such a small shop and we have such a big program. We really do have the forest for the trees. So JAM is able to really dig down and not be bogged down by the details that I personally see on a day-to-day basis. And as Jess alluded before, a community of like-minded fundraisers is really important. Just to be able to sit down and exclusively focus on, what are you doing? Is it working? What isn't working? And just to have that opportunity has been really, really valuable for us. So the next year, the things that we are looking forward to, the JAM benchmark report. That's a real big one. Super excited for that to be coming in the next few months. Help us, provide further insights to plan for our next fiscal. I'm really, really excited for developing and testing new onboarding journeys, stewardship journeys, and cultivation tactics. I'm looking forward to trialing and expanding our face-to-face programs. So even though we did get a lot of new donors, we still need more. And obviously, off the backs of that, growing and expanding the monthly file and really focusing on improving the LTV, payment methods and portals to improve retention. It's something that there's a ton of research behind, so it's a big initiative for me in the next year, and I think it will really make an impact in helping maintain the health of our monthly file. And obviously the ongoing feedback from mystery shopping. It's a real sense of comfort for me to know that if I can't necessarily see the ins and outs, that we've got somebody on ST who's always going to send me a quick email and ask, did I mean to send this email to this file or not?
Awesome. Thank you so much, Catherine. So now we are going to turn it over. I know there's some questions in here, so we will make sure at the end we get to these questions that came from your section here, but we'll turn it over to Stephanie to talk about her program at Alzheimer's Society.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, so I'm going to start with what keeps me up at night. So I joined the Alzheimer's Society of Canada in August of 2022 as the manager of monthly giving. But prior to me starting at this organization, there was never a dedicated staff member that solely focused on the monthly program. So for me, this meant that there's never been a separate or specific communications plan that we have for monthly donors. We do have a small welcome series for new monthly donors. However, outside of that welcome series, monthly donors are simply sent the same communications that we send our annual donors. So for me, as I look to grow this program with a specific focus on retaining our monthly donors, I'm really starting to look at and understand what exactly our monthly donors are receiving, when they're receiving it, and also that the language that we're using within those pieces. So for me, this is developing a separate communications plan for our monthly donors. And because our monthly donors have actually only received the communications that we send to our annual donors, which are donors that give gifts of maybe once or twice a year, it's resulted in what I feel is an over solicitation of our monthly donors. So essentially, every piece of communication our monthly donor receives includes an ask for an additional one-time gift. So one of the areas that I'm looking at as we develop a communications plan with focus on retention is replacing the majority of those solicitation pieces with strictly stewardship pieces, which are engaging for our monthly donors. And what I'm hoping that this will allow us is to start creating a community amongst our monthly donors who have chosen to support us in a very special way, and hopefully continue to move that needle on retention. But of course, in order to do this and to track all of this properly, we need to clean up our data. So I think as fundraisers, we all understand the importance and can appreciate the importance of clean data. And us at the Alzheimer's Society, we're no exception. So right now, a lot of our data is unfortunately coded very inconsistently. So being able to track and report back on KPIs such as retention for monthly donors based on a specific acquired channel, it becomes very challenging. So we need to clean up our data because we need to we need access to available and accurate data to make strategic decisions on where we need to invest in order to grow the program. So why we joined the GEM Collective, I think I'm going to echo a lot of what Catherine has spoken about. It's been a really great opportunity to learn from subject matter experts in the field. This, of course, includes both the Stephen Thomas team, but it also includes other members of the collective. It's been a great opportunity to understand what's working in the sector and then also what other organizations have found effective, but also what other organizations have found not worth the investment. It's also given us an opportunity to get benchmarking data. I think we all really appreciate data, and this benchmarking data is going to help us understand where we compare to other organizations, but also areas that we can improve. For us, the GEM Collective has also really supported the how. So I think often we already know what we should be doing or what we could be doing, but the Stephen Thomas team has really helped us with the how. So even just looking at that first 30 days of the donor journey and mapping out that welcome series, they've been able to share not just like what we need to improve, but have really helped us in figuring out how we can go about improving it. And then finally, through participating in the collective, it's enabled us to go into planning for next fiscal year with a plan that really focuses on monthly giving for retention. So I think every year, the majority of our annual plans and our budget planning has specifically focused around acquisition efforts for the monthly program. But this year, we're going into budget planning next year with a really specific plan for retention efforts. So the Alzheimer's Society of Canada, we have a really strong direct mail program in the sense that the majority of our monthly conversions do come through donors who are responding to our direct mail pieces. 75% of our retain or sustain our revenue comes from DM donors. And I think because we know that direct mail donors typically have a higher retention rate than maybe other channels such as door to door or street canvassing, it's resulted in us having an overall retention rate on the program of 85%. But we do also have a very heavy mail program, and our donors are very used to hearing from us in the mail. And I think it's a channel that they're very comfortable with. So for us, we have 13 house mailings, 2 reactivation mailings, and 4 acquisition mailings that go out in the year. And how we're able to convert monthly donors through the mail is that every one of our mailings does include an ask for a monthly gift. So that ask is in the letter copy as well as, of course, on the reply coupon. We do send 4 newsletters throughout the year, and each one of these newsletters has a monthly donor corner. And that's just a small little article where we're able to share stories of active monthly donors and why they've chosen to support us with a monthly gift. 2 of our house mailings are dedicated monthly conversion packages, and I'll share a little bit more about what those are in the next slide. And we also have 4 matching gift appeals that go out throughout the year. And for those matching gift appeals, we offer a match on new monthly donations for the first year of giving. So as I mentioned, 2 of the house packages that we have are specifically monthly conversion packages. So for these, we do offer a back end premium for new monthly donors. And for us, that back end premium is a produce bag. And we actually just send those out, do the fulfillment ourselves in the office. So once that package drops every week or 2, we just run a report of new monthly donors that have signed up, and we just simply send them their produce bag along with a little thank you letter. And we do that ourselves in the office. And the monthly conversion packages also have a full page reply form, which we know has boosted results for us. And this is just a sample of the monthly donor corner that we do send out in the newsletters. So as you see, it's just a short article that just shares personal stories of monthly donors and why they've chosen to support us. And we're able to share a picture of the donor as well, usually along with a loved one, if that picture is available to us. So what we've learned from the Jam Collective, I think I'll echo a lot of what Catherine spoke about, is that there's always room for improvement and things do not go according to plan. So I think we've learned that, yes, of course, what we think is happening and what we have planned isn't exactly being executed. So for us specifically, we were finding in our digital welcome series, a lot of the emails were actually ending up in junk mail folders, and the cadence and the timing of what we had planned wasn't what was going on either. And for us, our welcome series and donor journeys are actually very segmented by channel. So in the sense, digitally acquired donors only receive their welcome touch points via email, and monthly donors we acquire in the mail receive their welcome touch points through the mail. So for us, we've learned there's a lot of room for channel integration in our welcome series. And as a result, we're starting to look at hopefully sending a small mail piece to all donors that sign up, regardless of the channel in which we acquire them. And also SMS is a tool that we really want to start leveraging for stewardship, and we think it will be a great addition to add to our welcome series as well. It's also beneficial to see for us, other organizational communications we had going out were not paused during the welcome series. So it was interesting to see from a donor perspective, there was a lot of change in messaging and a bit of an inconsistent nature of what the donors were receiving from us. So we've learned that we can better onboard our new monthly donors if we pause other organizational communications during their welcome series. And that way we can better onboard them as monthly donors, but transition them a little bit better out of that welcome series as well. And also right now our upgrade appeals are actually on a calendar basis. And what we're learning is we want to be more agile with having these on a more rolling basis throughout the year so that we can start upgrading donors after a specific time in which they've been giving to us. Rather than what we do right now, which is, wait until January until that's when we have our reactivation our upgrade calling, or wait until April because that's when we have our digital upgrade appeal. So we're looking to be a little bit more agile with that. And we're actually really looking forward to testing this through the Gem Collective so that we can find that sweet spot on when the best time is to upgrade monthly donors. as well as testing that sweet spot on when we can actually go and ask monthly donors for an additional one-time gift, because we think there's a really great opportunity to also move that needle on additional OTG revenue from monthly donors without over soliciting them, which is what is going on right now. And finally, another opportunity that's come up through the Jam Collective that we're really excited to test is annual recurring donations. So we think there's a big opportunity to convert donors who are maybe not ready to commit to a monthly gift, but have them convert to an annual donor. So we're really looking forward to ways that we can leverage this within our monthly portfolio.
Okay, thank you so much, Stephanie. So I'm going to share a sneak peek of some early results from the Jam Collective in the first kind of stages of the Jam Collective with the mystery shopping. So we have found across the 5 organizations, there are some similarities. So journeys are conducted on a sign-up basis and on a calendar basis, which Stephanie kind of alluded to. So some of them are done for time on file, and some of them, and also there's certain times of the year where monthly donors receive a certain package or are part of a campaign. As I think both Catherine and Stephanie have alluded to, journeys are designed. Everyone has a design journey in the collective, but often they are not happening as designed. So it really has put a finer point on the importance of mystery shopping and continuing to mystery shop. So I think, as Catherine alluded to, we are continuing to monitor what the monthly donor, being us, receives and along their journey, but also starting from the beginning. And if we make changes, then going back and kind of starting over to make sure it's happening as we have designed it to. All the different collective members are using different channels to speak to their monthly donors. There's not necessarily a ton. Some organizations use cross channels. Some, really kind of stick to their lane. But everyone has a donor journey for each of the channels. And for most of the organizations, journeys are the same for net new donors and converted sustainers, which is something I think we're excited to test, which I'll get to in a later slide. But looking at possibly adjusting the journey based on whether it's a net new or a converted sustainer or monthly donor. And there's some differences. So I think there's a question in the Q&A about branded monthly donor programs, which we can get to. But some programs are branded and some member of the collectives do not have branded monthly donor programs. Some sustainers have a welcome journey bubble. We're kind of calling it, as Stephanie alluded to. So that's a time where, the monthly donor team says, we are protecting these donors from any kind of external communications from the organization to really onboard them. Some organizations don't have that bubble. And we're excited to see the data around that. What does that do to the attrition rate or the retention rate if they have that bubble, if they don't have that bubble? As I mentioned before, some have a journey for net new and converted, and some only have a journey for net new monthly donors. So some members of the collective, if you're a converted OTG donor who became a monthly, there's no onboarding journey for that. So again, there's testing opportunities around that. And some members have a sustainer or monthly donor full-time staff, like Stephanie, this is her role. But some organizations don't have a specific person who that's kind of their bread and butter. It's spread across multiple people. So just to kind of put a highlight on the fact there's all different types of, there's lots of similarities, but lots of differences across the organization. So some initial testing ideas and recommendations that have come from our initial the initial stages. So we feel like there's more opportunities for cross-channel integration, like Stephanie mentioned. Thank you calling DM postcards as a thank you, even though it's a digital donor, still sending them a mail touch point. Moving, and I know this is something that Catherine's been looking at, messaging to move donors from a credit card to an e-transfer or a bank transfer, because we know typically those types of donors retain at a higher level. So what can we do around testing messaging to move donors once they are a monthly donor to then move them to that different payment type? Using SMS as a stewardship opportunity. So Stephanie alluded to the fact she would like to test this in her program, and then using it as an easy upgrade. So Audubon Society does this quite seamlessly. So they have SMS as part of their onboarding. And then when they have very special appeals, they use it for a one-time gift ask, and then also for upgrading opportunities. Catherine has alluded to this in her program, developing a specific face-to-face welcome journey for specifically that type of donor, rolling upgrade as opposed to calendar upgrading, which Stephanie alluded to, and then as well testing annual recurring donation. So this is something, again, that Audubon Society has done quite successfully. So they've looked at their file and have recognized areas where people naturally, and I'm sure all of us around or in this webinar have often in your data, like once a year donors, or donors who typically just naturally give at the same time every year, just on their own. So looking at your data as an opportunity to say, okay, these group of donors do this they give annually in December. Can we go to this pool of donor with a specific ask to become an annual recurring donor, so that every year that gift automatically happens, testing messaging around that. And then obviously then we look at, once we get that going, then moving those people from an annual recurring into a monthly recurring gift. So just another opportunity to look at that recurring relationship as not just monthly, but looking at it different ways. And there's lots of organizations that do annual, biannual, and quarterly recurring gifts. Next steps for the collective before I open it up to questions. So as we've alluded to, and Stephanie and Catherine I think Catherine sent me an email not long ago. It's like, when is that benchmark report coming out? Everyone's very excited about the benchmark report, and it'll be published in early 2024. So there will be a public version that will be circulated. So we can't wait to share that with you all. But for the JAM Collective, we're so excited to kind of do a deep dive into the benchmark report with their particular organization, and to share kind of that together and the learnings together. We have a roundtable in December. So this will actually be roundtable number 3, will be held in early 2024. And as I mentioned, that will be a hybrid in-person and virtual option for our 3rd roundtable, which we're very excited to see everybody in person. And then we're actively recruiting for the class of 2024. So our goal is to every year start a new class of the JAM Collective and bring on more organizations to have access to more monthly donor programs, take learnings from other organizations, and share within the collective. We've really enjoyed kind of that community aspect. And I think I feel like we hope that would happen, but it's been really nice to see that community grow. I know members of the JAM Collective are reaching out directly to each other and asking each other questions, and that's been a really wonderful outcome of this as well. Okay, so I'm going to open it up to questions, thoughts, and reactions. I know there's some things in the chat here, so I'm going to try my best. I think I'm going to stop sharing this. I'm going to try my best to moderate this. So I'm going to start at the top here. Catherine, there was a question about your reduction in attrition, the 11%. And what time frame was that reduction in attrition? Was it in 13 months? Was it in the month to month, or what was that?
The program was just launched this year. So when the data was last pulled, it was at 6 months. But it's still a celebratory point, despite not being a year out, because we had seen attrition rates between gift 1 and 2 as high as 31%. So I'm taking it as a small win. I am very much looking forward, though, to seeing what the full year is. But given the amount of investment behind it, I track it every time we have a new communication or a touch point, if you will, come out. I circle back to see how many donors have left, or how many have stayed.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, here comes a question about early stages of planning and looking to grow your monthly giving program. So I'm not sure, Stephanie, if you want to take a stab at maybe some suggestions here, or I can start and kick it over. This person says we have some monthly givers who would like to build out a full program and appreciate some advice on where to start. So do you have any suggestions, or I can take a first kick at the can on this one too?
I can go for it.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I think the main thing is kind of looking at the case for support for monthly and looking at what you have in your calendar right now and making sure you're asking for monthly gifts. As Stephanie alluded to with the mail, I think they're in with many of all the solicitations that go out for one-time gift, there's a monthly ask and a case for support somewhere in there for monthly. So partially it's making sure you're asking every single time you're going out to your one-time gift donors. Looking at your file for loyalty is a great way to as well look for opportunities to move people up the ladder into monthly giving. And then there's also ways digitally to really push monthly giving through your online giving form. So really, again, building the case for support, pushing that as the main option if you're able to do that with your form, to make that kind of the default, let's say, for digital. But not sure if either one of you have any other kind of suggestions.
Yeah, I was just going to say, on any materials that you have going out, promote monthly giving and why you would want those gifts. Also too, like, I don't know if you have like a donor services team that takes calls, like call donations, but we have a really great donor services rep. So if somebody's calling in to make a gift, they also prompt to say like, hey, would you consider making this a monthly donation? And just kind of everywhere that you are acquiring donations, have that monthly gift ask. And then in terms of, yeah, ongoing communications, just leverage what you already have sending out. You can send that to your monthly donors, just change the message, variable messaging to acknowledge them as monthly donors. And that will just kind of give you the momentum to keep growing.
I think echoing all those points, if you have a smaller program, setting clear and identifiable goals are really important. With any type of fundraising, it's really easy to fall down a rabbit hole because there are so many options and it often can be a bit confusing about which way to go. But if you set small, measurable goals and really stick to them, I think that you'll make it a much less stressful situation for yourself. And be able to keep on track to grow the program.
Good call. Okay, this is someone has said, as a monthly donor, I've been invited to online educational events. While I may not attend, I'm pleased to be invited. Do either one of you, your organizations, host online events for monthly donors? And how maybe how do you do that, or what has been the feedback from that?
So we do have a research webinar that we offer. It's funny in the messaging. So monthly donors are invited to it. And of course, the messaging that we use in that invite is like, you're being invited because you're a monthly donor and we so appreciate you and please join us. However, it is open to other donors besides just monthly donors. So it is a little bit like we leverage it for our higher level donors, our monthly donors, maybe some mid-level donors. And it's a once a year annual research webinar, and that works for our organization because we're able to invite a researcher that we fund through our organization, and donors are really interested in hearing from that. And it is a great stewardship opportunity as well for monthly donors.
Mm-hmm.
No, we don't. Is that good? Also, no. Do we need to do it? Yes. Yes, we do. So when we outline clear goals, don't follow me as what not to do. In that before the pandemic, we definitely did have opportunities where we would invite monthly donors to attend sessions and meetings and tour our facilities. As a hospital, obviously, COVID was a negative impact on everything, but it really took a hammer to any of those tangible experiences or plus experiences that we were previously able to offer to our monthly donors. It is something that we're working towards right now to outline what kind of face-to-face experiences could we offer these donors, because we are a regional facility. Unlike the national orgs, it's not very difficult for us to hold in person because our supporter base is really confined to a very tight area. So it's something that we definitely know we have to do and we want to implement. It's just having to navigate, how do we provide these events when you're a healthcare provider and you have to be very, very cognizant about bringing multiple people together and not spreading stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Catherine, a question for you. I think there's two questions that are kind of related here around the learnings from door to door. And so I guess two-part question here. What tactics did you use to help improve your door-to-door attrition rate? And then how do you think some of those learnings could be implemented in other channels?
So to be perfectly honest with you, we tried a lot of things. As I was saying, capacity was a big issue. We were really overwhelmed with the door-to-door program, and it's really been only in the last 18 months that we finally felt like we were able to get ahead of things. So the onboarding journey that I apologize that I mentioned, we gained a lot. We definitely invested and we gained a lot. So in terms of multi-channel communication, follows up, definitely using a lot more telephony and to re-engage individuals. We also hired an FTE who their exclusive role is to cultivate donors that are acquired via door-to-door. And that has actually been a really, really profound impact in that we've been able to automatically apply loss aversion, which wasn't a possibility before, and also upgrade and convert donors.
Great. A question for you both, and I like this question, so I'm asking it. What was the biggest surprise you uncovered as a result of mystery shopping your monthly program? Stephanie, do you want to take this one first, or?
Yeah, so it was, like I said, things that you think are happening are not happening. So just the cadence of what was going on and when the emails were being sent was really surprising to us. Also, the pause on the external communications was really important. We thought that was happening, but to be actually able to like see it from a donor perspective, like the inconsistent messaging that they were receiving. And then for us too, what was really interesting was at the end of the welcome series, our donors then just fall into like the regular annual giving communications. So then they would be, they qualify for the next mailing. And that next mailing happened to be a calendar that we send out, a premium calendar that we send through the mail. But the next email they received was like, as a special thank you, like look out for your gift in the mail. So it really read as like they were getting this gift because they were a monthly donor, but that was not part of the welcome series. They were getting the gift because we were going to ask them for an additional one-time gift. So it really helped us like see the cadence of everything and kind of actually the messaging from a donor perspective. And it also was a really good lesson to continually mystery shop your own organizations too, because it was great that Stephen Thomas was able to do that for us. But I think, every 6 months it's worth, signing up yourself for a monthly donation and seeing what you get, and then also seeing what you get on an ongoing basis as well, because you learn a lot when you kind of take it from a donor's perspective and not the fundraiser's perspective.
Great. Stefan or Catherine?
I didn't come in with a lot of expectations. I was very honest with Jess from the outset in that I didn't think we were going to be the star student in the class. So to say what was surprising, not too much. It was very informative. It was important. But there wasn't necessarily, I knew that I wasn't what I thought, and potentially what was going to happen wasn't going to quite line up. I frankly think it was more difficult for Jess to tell me about it than it was for me to learn about it. But yeah, I wasn't necessarily surprised. I was just so grateful that we had signed up and that we were given this live feedback. And every time I get an email, I know I'm going to learn something new about my program, but it's really important because that email becomes the genesis for conversations with internal teams who, everyone is really, really busy everywhere. And to be able to have a tangible email that says, look, this is X, Y, and Z, this is what is happening, it's impacting revenue. It's priceless for me, frankly. I've taken every single email, and I've been able to immediately action change in how we cultivate and steward and communicate with our donors. So it's been great.
Yeah, I think there's another member of the collective who's been fighting kind of this internal battle around their monthly donors being used from other parts of the organization. And for them visually, and we were able to visually lay it out, like you become a monthly donor, and then you're starting to get like event emails and lottery and 50-50. And for them to be able to, like, in one visual snapshot, take that to other parts of the organization and just say, objectively, just look at this, and how does this feel if you just made a long-term commitment to an organization? And I think it's helped them move the needle on some of those conversations. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's solved the next day, but it's at least opened it up as like an objective outside perspective to those types of challenges. Okay, I think we have maybe time for one more question. I'm just looking here. So I know there was a question about branding your monthly donor camp programs. I think you both have branded programs. It's like, oh no, Catherine doesn't. Okay, so thoughts on branding a program to differentiate? Does anyone have any strong feelings about that?
Yeah, I do actually.
Okay.
Just based off of a lot of research and back from my agency days, I found that sometimes what would happen is the best intentions, they would label a group, segment them, and then create branding, apply it to everything, and then it would either be forgotten or it became very dated very quickly. And in a lot of situations, I came along and was tasked with tidying it up or modernizing it. So it became, based on my personal experience, it wasn't worth the additional ad. And then when I was able to identify research and data that said it didn't make as profound of an impact, and in some cases it actually deterred giving, for example, creating gold, silver, and bronze sometimes works against the organization. So from the outset at Trillium, it was my very clear intention to keep it brand free. We definitely have personalized communications, but we don't call them friends of the hospital or flower circle people. They're just monthly supporters that mean the world to us.
Stephanie, do you have any?
Yeah, I can add to that. So I'm kind of along the same thought process. For me, having a branded name for the program is less of a priority right now. And I'm just trying to really create a community around our monthly donors. And I think for me, that's more of like how we're communicating with them. So every piece of communication that they receive should have somewhere in there an acknowledgement that they're a monthly donor to make them feel special and part of a community. And I think that that's more about how we're speaking to them and not necessarily saying that they're a part of this group. I think it works for a lot of organizations, but for us, we're not there. And I just don't think that's where our investment needs to be right now.
Great. Well, we're at time, so I don't want to go over. It's been so wonderful. Thank you so much to Stephanie and to Catherine, and for all of you for attending. I think Shola or someone from ST is going to put all of the three of ours emails in the chat. Please feel free to reach out. I know there were some questions that we didn't get to today, so please feel free. Catherine and Stephanie have told me it's okay if you email them. So please reach out if you would like to have specific questions answered. You'll also get a recording of this webinar sent to you in the coming week or so. So thank you again so much for attending, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.